the good part of a single digit, I think there's always a misconception that when inflation drops, then prices should drop.
That's automatically what we are thinking.
No.
We've been seeing whenever they are talking about, oh, the MPC, the MPR, oh, we are looking at this, oh, that number dropped. But when I went to ShopRite, I didn't feel it. We
Yeah.
want to feel the direct impact on the prices of day to day.
Yeah, but that's not how it works. And I
Yeah.
think Chelesha can clarify that.
Yeah.
So what it means is prices will be increasing, but at a much slower rate.
From a sectoral perspective,
Mm-hmm.
mining will continue to be the anchor
Mm-hmm.
of the economy at large. It also has a lot of benefits through the ancillary businesses that can benefit from it. Energy, then so there's that linkage now. I think you see it on the stock market as well. Mining, energy.
Yes.
Energy supporting mining. So you can see that linkage. So there's a huge requirement in terms of energy. The drought last year, I have argued, was a good thing.
Oh.
Why? Because it then helped remind us how vulnerable we are as a country.
Yeah.
So of course it was uncomfortable and it came with it a lot of challenges. But you've seen how much policy changes have come in to support the energy sector.
Yeah.
Through your open access, through the net metering, the continuation of this tariff program. So we're now more suited, or we're getting to a place where we'll be able to sustain more of these drought events better in the coming years. The GDP is a leading indicator. So let's not confuse economic growth with development. So I think a lot of times people say, no, but they keep saying GDP this, GDP that.
We are not seeing it.
Yes, but we're not seeing it. So GDP is what needs to come before development, right? So development now encompasses a broader range in terms of people's living standards, human development index, and all those nice things which then translate. But for that to happen, it does take time.
Hello and welcome to the Money and People podcast, the show where we connect the dots between financial success and the power of human capital. Today, we are going to be making sense of the 2026 budget. A lot of times, entrepreneurs, small businesses sometimes feel like the budget discussions are a bit too technical. And so today I am here with Arnold Kasalwe, who is a tax expert, as well as Chileshe Mono, who is an economist. You've seen them before on the show, but today we are going to be breaking down the national budget into something for all of us to be able to understand, for the lay man or woman to understand. Welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Thank you. It's good to be here again.
Yeah.
It's wonderful to be here.
All right. So when you looked at this year's budget, what stood out to you most from the budget speech as an economist?
Yeah, so getting into the budget, there were three key things that I was looking forward to see. As you know, funding has been cut from the US, so that was a key one. There's also the issue of it being an election period, so would we
Yes.
see a lot of expansionary expenditure? And the last one was also around the debt restructure program and whether I would see more allocation towards that process. So those were the three key things I was looking forward to. And it was good to see that from an election cycle perspective, there wasn't too much of an excessive expenditure planned for this current period. Everything is a continuation of what has already been. Obviously, there's going to be more spending. So it's expansionary in a way as a percentage of GDP.
Yeah.
But the important thing there to note is that most of the increase in spending is going towards what you call non-discretionary spending, which is debt repayments, particularly on domestic debt expenditure. So that tells you to say it's not an election spend per se, but it's really just spending to meet what they needed to actually meet. Other than that, outside of that, it was very much a continuation of the fiscal consolidation path that the authorities have already been on. So that was a key thing that stood out amongst many other things, but that's what I can mention for now.
Okay. All right. And for you, Arnold, from the tax perspective?
From my side, Being a tax person, so obviously the first thing I was looking at what are the programs that the government have put in place, but also how are they going to be financed. So the biggest thing that stood out for me was the fact that 82% of the budget is supposed to be funded by the taxpayers' revenue, so ourselves. So the budget is saying 82% of this budget you have to pay, you, the Zambian citizens. So basically, it's pay for your own bills now. Okay. So and especially when you look at where we are coming from, where the budget like domestic mobilization revenue was only like 50% of the budget. So that entails that where was the other difference coming from? Okay, obviously it was borrowing. That's why I think Chireshe mentioned that a huge part of what we are paying relates to debt, domestic and external debt. Okay, so it tells you because only 50% was being funded by taxpayers' money. I think last time we spoke about compliance. Now they are saying let's increase compliance. Foreign aid is cut. We have to pay for our own bills now. So that number, 82%, stood out for me so much.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so from a perspective of just an ordinary citizen, what does this mean? When you say now from 50% was coming from us to 82%, we've been saying times are tough. Does this mean they are going to get tougher?
I can go first.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. So, in simple words, and maybe I can borrow the way Andrew Chiwe from PwC put it. He was basically saying, think of it like in your house. Your salary only supports 50% of your budget. Okay, so that means where you getting the rest of the money? You're borrowing. Okay, so now you're saying, let's live within our means. Okay, let's live within our means, but also grow our means. I think when Chileshe touches on it, you see how we talk about how we are trying to grow the economy. Okay, well as we are living within our means, so no more borrowing. Borrowing will be there, but it's very minimal. I think the government is targeting like 2.3% of GDP, which is very minimal. Okay, so that entails that compliance is going to increase. So now, what does it mean? Grow the tax base. By growing the tax base and bring in the informal sector, all those guys that are not paying, bring them in. So it works, it's two folds. For those that are already compliant, okay, for those that are already compliant, the whole issue is you actually feel a bit of a relief because more people come to help you with the tax burden. Okay, so nothing really changes. So the taxes may not go up, okay, but at least now you are sharing the burden with the new people that are being brought into the tax system, especially the informal sector. Okay, then for those that were not paying, you're going to feel it. Okay, because now you've got a cost that previously you were not able to pay. Okay, now the government, with all these ICT infrastructure they've put in place, it's easy to detect who's paying, who's not paying. Just like the way they've gone for landlords, the people that have got properties. If you have seen the ZRA, there's a message that they are posting, and they're even saying we've given you an amnesty by 31st December 2025. You need to start declaring. If you don't, because remember now they can match information with third parties. So they can pick your information from Ministry of Lands, from the council, and your name will show there. Then they'll compare with the returns. Then they find you've got properties, but there's no rental tax that you are paying. So such people are going to be, and you feel that, okay, now we are paying. Yeah.
Would you
And
like
also,
to?
yeah, no, spot on. I think it's been well covered. So if you look at the last three budgets, there've been very few actual tax measures, as you would call them from a tax specialist perspective. It's been more around improving compliance. So as you improve compliance, you widen the net and you're able to capture more revenues within the economy, which, if you think about it, is just the right way that things should be done in any case, right? We all enjoy public goods and services. So it's only right that we also contribute towards funding those public goods and services. The other thing that needs to be understood is, if you think about revenues, they've been growing quite a lot. But also revenues, if you look at it as a percentage of GDP, it's been a steady increase since 2021. So as your economy is growing, naturally you will collect more revenue. I think the good thing is that expenditure on the other side, whereas I think the period he was referring to should be 2020 or 2021, when only 55% of the budget was being funded by revenues. The other thing is that expenditure was quite high, but there was also stifled growth. So
Yeah.
since then, you've expanded the economy, so you've actually increased the pools to raise revenue, but on the cost side, there's been a lot of containment. So even now, they are planning to spend around 27.4% of GDP. Previously, in the 2020s, we were over 30% in terms of what you intended to spend relative to your GDP. So that's why even that ratio is now starting to look better, from 55% to 80.2% to 82%, which they're targeting next year. So you should expect more of that to happen. That's why it's important to always focus on growing the economy. It's the same reason your debt to GDP ratio is going to be reducing within the coming years and has been coming down. The more you grow your economy, you can actually grow out of your debt problem,
Yeah.
right? So if say you owe me 10 kwacha,
Yeah.
and your income is 20 kwacha.
Yeah.
If your income goes up to 1,000 kwacha, you won't feel the 10 kwacha that you owe me.
Yes.
So that's another way you can think about it. So the metrics are looking far much better, but it's not because people are being punitively gone after and they're having to pay more taxes, but it's because the actual pool has grown, but also the compliance measures that are being put in place to broaden the tax base are also coming through.
Okay.
I guess that's what I can add. Yeah.
Okay. Interesting. And so coming a little bit deeper into discussing what changes that we are expecting to see. When the government announced that they are projecting a 6.4% increase in the GDP for 2026, what does that actually mean for SMEs specifically?
Yeah, so it means that the economy is expected to grow, right? So,
Yes.
but I think what people tend to not fully understand about GDP is that GDP is a leading indicator. So
Yeah.
let's not confuse economic growth with development. So I think a lot of times people say, no, but they keep saying GDP this, GDP that.
We are
But
not seeing it.
yes, but we're not seeing it.
Mm-hmm.
So GDP is what needs to come before development, right? So
Yeah.
development now encompasses a broader range in terms of people's living standards, human development index, and all those nice things which then translate. But for that to happen, it does take time, right? And we're a country coming out of debt distress. We've had a drought. We had COVID in 2019. So growth is expected to happen because of the good policies that are being put in place. I think one of the big things that we can say about this budget and the last two budgets is they're becoming a lot more predictable, which is a good thing, right? You
Yeah.
want your budgets to be predictable. You
Yeah.
want your monetary policy to be predictable, because then it's good for the business environment. So as we're seeing this level of predictability, it's then supporting growth, mainly being driven by the mining sector. Why is the mining sector growing? Because you've now encouraged more investment into the sector by having a stable policy environment. So your mining sector will then anchor the economy, and you will see a lot of other sectors contributing to that. Mainly your service sectors, your ICT and tourism are also pumping at a good level. So that's good for the broader economy, so to speak. So even the conversation of is it attainable, 100% it is. Recall that in the last commodity super cycle that we had in the early 2010s, Zambia was growing at a rate of around 10%, right? So that tells you to say, being a copper economy and there's all these good stuffs happening globally around that metal, it's supportive of this economy to actually grow. Even the 6.4% is good, but we should be aiming for double-digit growth every year. And it's only after you've had successive growth such as that is when now people start to feel it. So the actual living standards improve, but it takes time. So
Yeah.
GDP is a good thing,
Yeah.
GDP growth, but it's not everything, obviously. So we expect that as this GDP continues to be sustained, then we should see people's living standards also improving.
Okay.
Yeah.
And yeah.
Yeah, just another point on there. So the other side that I was looking at it, and maybe Church can also touch on it if it could, it was where the growth was coming from. So for me, I normally try to check in the budget, and I'm like, okay, so where's the growth going to come from? Okay, and I think you could see, I think from the presentations that were done by the minister and even afterwards by a number of government officials,
Yeah.
I think they are pushing, especially like you said, on the mining, copper production, because they are saying we're going to hit 1 million ton production. Okay, so now we are saying it's a tight budget to meet that growth. We have to hit that target of
Yeah.
1 million. If we hit that target and the copper prices hold,
Yeah.
I think they should be trading around, I think, almost
Over
just under.
$10,000.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So if we can hit that target by the end of 2025 and then more in 2026, because then you look at the supply chain that benefits from that production. So that is good for us. Then also the most important one, energy. Okay, so when you look at the government have committed to add about 1,800 megawatts. Okay, so that has to happen.
Yeah.
Okay, that because energy is an enabler. The moment we don't have energy, that's why sometimes when people are upset that the mines are just getting energy, sometimes I'm like, if only we understood the importance of the mines,
Yes.
they
Yeah.
have to have that energy to produce
Yeah.
the levels and the
Yeah.
volumes that they have to. So I'm hoping, I'm seeing growth from the mines, from energy as an enabler, but also from the agriculture and ICT. I think if we can get growth from this, it's very much possible to attain the 6.4.
Okay. All right. And then coming to people's favorite topic, when they hear economics, they're just thinking of inflation. They want to know the direct. What is going to be the direct impact, on my prices, my shopping, my general life, my food basket? So from this budget, we are saying inflation is expected to 4 to 6 to 8%. Yeah. So how would that impact the cost of doing business for small businesses in terms of, do we expect this to directly impact fuel prices, material prices, and all those things?
Yeah, no, 100%. So that target is always an interesting one because I think we need to understand why they even target 6 to 8%, right?
Yeah.
So in the monetary policy framework, the central bank would then sit down and decide on what's an appropriate target level within which to work, which is
Okay.
why they use inflation targeting. So in their tools and in their activities, what they'll be looking for over the medium to long term is inflation to be within that range. Now, I think we misunderstand when in every budget they say 6 to 8%. They're not forecasting 6 to 8%, but that's
Yeah.
the target.
Okay.
Right, so there's a difference between a forecast and a target.
Yeah.
Right, so even the way we understand that 6 to 8% just needs to be a bit more clear, because that 6 to 8% target then governs how they operate and how they use their tools, mainly which is the monetary policy rate or the MPR. They have other tools, the cash reserve ratio, and so on and so forth. But essentially, what guides them in how they use those tools is inflation within their bound, which is 6 to 8%. So that's what the experts at the Bank of Zambia have determined to be an appropriate level, which is then remember that not all inflation is bad inflation.
Yeah.
Right? So some inflation is necessary actually when you are in a growing phase of an economy.
Yeah.
So usually when we look at that target, it's always, but we are double digits. Last year we didn't hit it. So it's important to just understand what the thinking around that is. In terms of what it means for the average businessman, so inflation will always be there. It means that your prices will be slightly higher or much, much higher than they were the previous year. So it's something that you always sort of have to contend with. The goal and hope for most of us is that it comes down to a single digit basis. That way it's a bit more manageable. Because where you have inflation in, say, 20% annually, it means within 5 years you would have doubled your cost of doing business, for example, right? So you try to maintain it as low as possible. And I think we're seeing a very strong message being sent out by the central bank through their recent action, where even as inflation is coming down, they're keeping the policy rate at 14.5%, and they're showing you to say they really want inflation to get down to that level. So key things to look out for next year: will we have another good rainfall season, as most forecasts are predicting? If we do, you have good food supply, and food is the biggest is the biggest thing within that basket, which is the CPI basket, which they use to measure inflation. So about 53% of that is just food. So if you have a good rainfall, you've got good food production, it usually tells you that there's a good chance that inflation is going to come down. But also from an energy perspective, which is I think where most people pay attention to. What does it mean for electricity? What does it mean for fuel prices? In terms of electricity, we hope there'll be another really good rainfall so that you have more water at the Kariba and your other water reservoirs, so as to improve your electricity generation. If that happens, it's supportive for all businesses, even the business where we are here. If they have that supply from the ZESCO, maybe they use their gensets less, and that's good for the overall business environment. In terms of fuel, however, there's a big lever, which is that we import it. So there's a level to which we can control that particular leg. So far, it seems it's fairly stable globally. I think the US ramping up production is supporting that as well. We are confident it will remain fairly stable through the course of next year. So the next question will be, does your exchange rate then remain stable? Because that's the other leg which is important. And if it does, then you have a generally stable business environment, which leaves you with an inflation you can live with. Because it will be there. It's just a question of, will it run away to the high teens, or will it be in single digits, which is, I think, what most of us would actually hope for. So it's good to see that the target has been maintained, and we are fairly confident that we should move into single digits at the bare minimum next year.
Okay.
And also, the good part of a single digit, I think there's always a misconception that when inflation drops, then prices should drop.
That's automatically what we are thinking. We've been seeing whenever they are talking about, oh, the MPC, the MPR, all we are looking at is, oh, that number dropped. But when I went to ShopRite, I didn't feel it. We want to feel the direct impact on the prices of day to day.
Yeah, but that's not how it works. And I think Chelesha can clarify that.
Yeah.
So what it means is prices will be increasing, but at a much slower rate.
Yeah.
So like you said, inflation will always be there. Okay. But then for businesses, if the prices for your inputs, your raw materials, whatever you are buying, if today you are buying it at this price, the following day it's difficult to run a business.
Yeah.
So if the inflation is in a single digit, then at least you get confidence as a business that the prices won't just increase dramatically.
Yeah.
At least it will be at a slower rate. But it doesn't mean that the prices needs to come down.
We want to see prices coming down. What will it take for prices to come down?
Look, I think given everything that's in consideration, it's very difficult outside of food to see prices come down significantly. So this year we've already seen what you call deflation, or prices coming down.
Yeah.
Right? Which is positive, especially in terms of maize and these other key food categories.
Yeah.
So that's positive. But look at the other things, right? Say electricity, for example. Even if we record a very good rainfall season and we have an increase in terms of electricity supply, let's not forget that we are on this multi-year tariff program, which is supposed to get us to cost reflective tariffs. And why is that important? Is that it's what will unlock more investment into the sector to allow for us now to be a bit more energy sufficient as a country.
Yeah.
Now, if you now say, no, you just want to push ZESCO to push prices down, you then move into a short-term mindset. Maybe you have lower prices now, and then next year you have completely no electricity,
Yeah,
for
yeah,
example.
true.
So I think it's important to have that mindset to understand. So there are certain things that, one, we can't control because there are external factors that involve it. Two, there are structural issues within the economy, such as a good example would be the electricity sector, where there is a need for prices to actually go up so that you support more stability in the
In that
longer term.
industry, yeah.
So I think it's important to just separate some of those issues. Food, I think if we have a good bumper harvest, that one we can expect to come off. I think for the other factors, there's a lot more things that we need to consider. So it may not be realistic that we expect everything to just come
Yeah.
down next year, right?
Yeah, I hear you. I think what promotes this type of questioning is the promises from politicians. So, election time is upon us, and people will be promised all sorts of things. By this time next year, the price of milling would have dropped to blah, blah, blah. So people become excited when they hear such words as inflation. But thanks for clarifying that. Now, when we look at this budget, as we discussed earlier, that debt servicing is going to take up a big chunk of the budget. Does this affect the funds that are available to support small businesses?
Well, I can start then. So yes, actually, because it was a limited pool of funds. So the question is always, how do you work around it, and what can you do? I think we're encouraged to see that even in this tough situation, there's still going to be some increase in terms of support that's going to go to the SMEs. We've also seen a big announcement from the Bank of Zambia around that 5 billion fund which they are looking to bring into the market to help de-risk SMEs. So it's steps like that that can actually help you as an SME to actually stabilize through some of these difficult periods. But if you look at most other countries, right, um, there's a key role that the private sector needs to play. So if you really think about it, then there's a need for the government to play a smaller role within the economy.
Yeah.
Because one thing they could have done is just increase the size of the budget and increase how much they would be supporting SMEs by.
Yeah.
But you see, the challenge with that is because we've already talked about the resource envelope being limited, they would have to borrow from the same market. So
Yeah.
what happens now is something called the crowding out effect, where you have government borrowing more, taking out those resources that are supposed to be intended to support SMEs. So in a way, what they've done over the last 5 years in reducing their involvement within the domestic financing market is actually positive because it leaves more room for those same resources to then be channeled to SMEs at a better rate, right? So if we
Yeah.
recall, 2020s, government was borrowing, I think the 10, 15-year tenors were above 30%.
Yes.
That's a challenge. So if government is borrowing at 30% and they are considered to be quote unquote risk-free,
Yeah.
where am I going to lend to Delia, who has some risk attached to her? So if you add that risk premium, that's why you saw very elevated interest rates. Now with government borrowing less, you've seen the yield curve come down quite considerably. I think the 10-year bond is now trading at just around 19%. So that leaves a bit more room for, one, funds to be allocated to SMEs, two, at a much cheaper rate than it was previously. Of course, there's a plan to get it even cheaper because that's the goal. But there's been considerable efforts that have been made over the years to reduce government involvement because that's actually what spurs private sector activity. And the more private sector activity you have, it's actually more beneficial for the economy. So that's what I can say. I think we need to understand some of the constraints that the authorities have in terms of
Okay.
their ability to support SMEs directly.
Okay, and that is just sad news for me as an investor. We used to enjoy lending to the government through bonds.
Yeah, but also just to add
Yeah.
on Cheleshe's point. So like you said, you're talking of it's about almost 29 points, just under 30% of the total budget.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's around, I think domestic should be around 52, then external about 21.
21, yeah.
So that gives you a total of about 73 point something
Yeah.
billion. So now, if you look at the way the monies have been allocated, Okay, I think your highest there that we have, it's the, is it the general public
Pub
affairs?
services, yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
which has got 90, about 92.
Mm-hmm.
Then now it's debt.
Yes.
Okay, so debt actually we are paying more into debt compared to what we are paying in education, which is around 33. What we are paying in health,
Health.
what we are paying in economic affairs.
Yeah.
Okay, so now you think of it, that is money that could have gone into these other sectors, including supporting the SMEs. But then, if you go back, you understand why we have so much debt.
Yeah.
Between 2015 and 2021, I think our debt increased. Um, that's domestic debt. I think it moved from about 12 billion to almost 151 billion.
Mm.
So there was so much borrowing, and that's the point that we spoke, that we were borrowing, we were not collecting money to pay for our own bills.
Mm.
Okay, so now those now are coming due, so we have to pay for them.
Yeah.
Okay, so now if we can get rid of the debt has got an impact in that we are not taking that money to productive sectors, but we're just liquidating our obligations. You know, so it's really eating up, and it's also limiting the funds that should go somewhere else.
Yeah.
I think just to add on to that, I think we need to get out of this short-term mindset.
Mm.
So if you recall, there's a period when fuel prices didn't change for, is it 2 to 3 years or so, I think.
Mm.
And what was happening in the background, of course, we're happy with the cheaper fuel.
Yeah.
But what was happening in the background is we as a country, because remember, I think there's a lot of political narratives that go around.
Mm.
But the truth is, we elect leaders, those leaders make decisions for us. So as a collective, we're accruing arrears for that cheap fuels.
Mm.
So we were now in a position where even this year, those arrears had to be settled, hence a supplementary budget to settle those fuel arrears.
Yeah.
So yes, you had cheaper fuel prices and we were happy, quote unquote, but it came back.
We're paying for it
And
still
how do you
later.
pay? You are still going to pay because
Yeah.
bonds had to be issued in the background.
Yeah.
And ultimately, those are the Zambian people. That is our debt as a people.
Yes.
So it's important to understand that to come out of this period, we call it the lost decade, the 2011 sort of 2021 period, there will be some pain which comes through the process, and part of it is manifesting now, where he broke it down quite nice in terms of those categories: general public, goods and services, economic affairs, and health, education. So what you want is to see more being spent on economic affairs, health, and those nice things, social protection. But you have this huge sum of debt that you have to pay.
Yeah.
It's contractual as a country.
Yeah.
So you can't run away from it. So in that process, there'll be some difficult decisions which will have to be made, maybe limiting how much can go to those key sectors, such as health, for example, where we signed for that Abuja Declaration, I think 2001, which committed that we would spend at least 15% of our budget on health. We haven't been able to meet some of those targets.
Yeah.
Understandably so. Why? Because we've got this huge debt
Yeah.
and limited funds. Because
Yeah.
it's possible that they can even increase spending on SMEs health, but the ways to fund that would be either increasing your debt,
Yeah.
again, which is a problem, or charging more taxes.
Yeah.
I'm sure.
Which is unsustainable.
Yeah.
I'm sure that's something we all wouldn't want as well.
Yeah.
So I
Yeah.
think even as citizens, SMEs, or just the general public, it's important those documents are there on the Ministry of Finance website. You don't need an economist. Let's go through, let's understand what's the history, why are we even in this position. I think it helps us understand why budgets come out the way that they do.
Okay. Did you have anything to
No,
add?
no.
Okay. And so earlier, when you were mentioning in terms of the areas of growth for the economy, you mentioned mining, energy. Does that mean those are the areas that SMEs should pay attention to look out for opportunities as well?
So okay.
You go first.
So yeah, definitely. So for example, energy, right? So energy, the government has said they want to add that's 1,800 megawatts.
Yeah.
What does this mean for for the SMEs. So for the SMEs you're talking about, there'll be a lot of requirement for things like, and remember, I think they've broken it down. I think 1,500 it's solar, then about 300 it's core, right? Yeah. So what
Yeah.
does that mean for solar? So for the guys that know how to do installation, the guys that can supply the panels, the guys that can supply batteries, all those stuff, the supply chain that
Yes.
support energy. So those are opportunities. Okay. Even when you go to if you go to the mines, obviously the mines, if they boom, there's a lot of suppliers to the mines.
Yeah.
So you look at those also. Then ICT, as we are moving digitally, looking at these guys, the consultant, the developers, the what, there are all those opportunities. And I think in the conversation we'll talk about how the practical way of being able to have access to these opportunities.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think from a sectoral perspective,
Mm-hmm.
mining will continue to be the anchor
Mm-hmm.
of the economy at large. It also has a lot of benefits through the ancillary businesses that can benefit from it. Energy, then, so there's that linkage now. I think you see it on the stock market as well. It is CMIH, CEC, billion-dollar
Yeah.
companies, right?
Yeah.
Mining, energy,
Yes.
energy supporting mining. So
Mining.
you can see
Yes.
that linkage. So there's a huge requirement in terms of energy. The drought last year, I have argued, was a good thing.
Oh.
Why? Because it then helped remind us how vulnerable we are as a country.
Yeah.
So of course it was uncomfortable and it came with it a lot of challenges. But you've seen how much policy changes have come in to support the energy sector
Yeah.
through your open access, through the net metering, the continuation of this tariff program. So we're now more suited, or we are getting to a place where we'll be able to sustain more of these drought events better in the coming
Yeah.
years. Because what do we know? We know that due to climate change, the frequency of these drought events is actually going to increase, or is predicted to increase. From maybe one every 10 years, you might be looking at one in every 3 to 5 years.
Yeah.
So it's just a matter of time, another drought is going to come.
Yes.
So now, because it came and it hit us very bad, we've now woken up as a country.
Yeah.
People now have solar. I think most of us here now have decided to install solar through that understanding. So as SMEs, I think you cannot run away from the importance of supporting the energy sector, supporting the mining sector, but also remember, like, what makes most billion-dollar companies is thinking outside the box. So everyone will be going to mining, everyone will be going to energy, but there's great opportunities in your tourism. ICT has been mentioned here. So thinking outside the box in terms of some of those opportunities that are untapped within the other sectors of the economy that can give you that growth for your own business, but can also
Yeah.
support the economy. And the one obvious one, which the numbers always reflect, is tourism. So tourism has been one of the fastest growing sectors over the last 5 years. Good things going on there. Zambia continues to be a very good tourist destination, but also there is increased local tourism.
Yeah.
Attached to that, they've seen some good infrastructure projects being advanced by the government, so that's also positive. Then in terms of infrastructure as well, there's this new PPP framework that we all need to take advantage of. So of course there are the big projects, the Lusaka and Dola, dual carriageway, and so on and
Yeah.
so forth.
Yeah.
But what other projects can we think of? Well, we can partner with the government through a PPP that has impact. As an SME, CDF funding keeps on increasing. So what do we do in terms of trying to tap into that CDF funding to grow our businesses? Because that's what it's meant to do, to
Yeah.
bring development within the communities, within the constituencies. So it's about tapping into all those opportunities and seeing what works for us as a business, but also supports the broader economy overall.
Okay. That's interesting. And I have actually been seeing a lot of things being done by the Ministry of Tourism, Zambia Tourism Agency, in just trying to promote local tourism. So I think for those SMEs that are in that sector, now is a good time for them to also just thrive. And I like how you've talked about how we need to then start embracing these solar businesses and all that, because yeah, it's only going to get worse. I mean, they've been talking about temperatures are just going to keep getting worse, but if we keep living in this little bubble that we are going to have enough rainfall to eliminate load shedding 100% and go back to the old days, I think then it won't really help us grow as an economy. But yeah, interesting things. Now we move a little bit to the tax side, where we are looking at how the minister mentioned that a tax administration bill is going to be passed to ease compliance, right? So what does this mean in practical terms for the smaller businesses?
Okay. So for the tax administration bill, so I think we need to understand what exactly it is, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's uh, we haven't seen the bill itself, but
Yes.
from what we know,
Mm.
okay, and from other countries that have it, so they always say we need to have a law that regulates the tax statutes. Okay. So currently, we've got a number of tax acts. We've got the VAT Act, the Income Tax Act, the Property Transfer Tax Act, the Customs and Excise Act, you know. So, and all these acts, they've got their own rules. They've got their own administration rules, processes, procedures. So, for an SME, especially those that can't afford an expert, right?
Yeah.
They have to understand the rules, the procedures, and the processes in the VAT Act. Then from the VAT Act, they have to understand the Income Tax Act.
Mm.
They have to understand the pay-as-you-earn regulations. They have to understand the customs, the property transfer tax, you know, different things. Okay. So what the Tax Administration Act does, like the name administration, it consolidates.
Oh.
Okay. So therein comes in the compliance. Because remember, we're saying some people are not compliant, not because they want to, because they just don't know what to do.
Yeah.
Okay. And some people they just want to trade. They want to do business and with easy of compliance. But now they've got rules that they don't understand. Okay. But now when you have one act, the moment somebody deals with that, they say for example, so the tax administration now will put up the processes to say you follow a single set of rules. Okay. So if you are having an audit on VAT, at least you are very familiar with the processes, even on the other taxes.
Okay.
Okay. So what it does, it's the act now that consolidates and houses all the acts. So the acts will remain standing the way they are, but in terms of the administration, the processes, the procedures, they will now be through the tax administration. So it administers all the tax statutes. So now it will clearly spell out the powers of the commission, the ZRA, but also it also spell out your obligation and rights as a taxpayer.
Okay.
It will properly state how you should follow if it's appeal processes. Okay, the time if the ZRA sends you notices and all that,
Yes.
when are you supposed to respond to them?
Okay.
Things like if the ZRA is auditing you, it will clearly spell out how long that audit should take. Because sometimes, especially things to do with VAT refunds, sometimes you ask questions, and I'm not saying that is the fact, but there are times when a number of times the tax authority start audits, it's a refund that they're supposed to give you. Then that audit takes 2 years, 3 years. Remember, that's your money, and you can never be paid your VAT refunds if the audit has not been concluded. So, like you look at, like I've seen cases in South Africa where the SARS, the
Yes.
SARS has taken too long, and the taxpayers won a case where the courts have said no, but in terms of the Tax Administration Act, you are supposed to complete the audit in this time period. But because you did not, it means you accept that the taxpayer is correct.
Oh,
So you have to refund
by
them.
default. Oh
Yes,
my
by
God.
default. So there should be a period.
Yeah.
So it will really spell out a lot of procedures, and then for the taxpayers, it's easy for you to follow because you're just following one set of rules and not rules that are fragmented across the statutes. So it's a very good act. It should have been in place. I don't know why we don't have it up to now.
Yeah, yeah, it sounds like something that perhaps maybe they had to learn from the way it's being done in other countries, and maybe now they're ready to apply it here. Okay, and then Statutory Instrument Number 45 of 2025 gives SMEs preference in public procurement. How can small businesses position themselves to benefit from this?
Okay. Yeah. So, and again, if we just backtrack a bit, right? Just to understand, and you look at that SI. So that SI, it's a public procurement preferences and reservation schemes regulation. Okay. So it works on a two-tier system. Okay. So one on preference and then reservation. So on the preference side, they are saying you as a local, as a Zambian owned company. So it's giving advantage first to the Zambian companies. So basically it's saying the Zambian companies will be what? Will be favored.
Yes.
So things like, I think they've put a number of rates, if you go through them, where they are saying, if you are competing with a foreign entity, right, then assuming everything is the same, then you've got a higher price that you have in your proposal compared to the foreigner. So instead of giving to the foreigner based on the price, so the government have got these percentages depending on I think there are a number of categories. Just to take interest to see what categories are there. I think there's categories for what Zambian owned companies, Zambian like women owned enterprises, youth owned enterprises, disability owned enterprises. So depending on that, they can reduce your fee that you had put in the proposal so that they give you the contract.
Okay.
So I think they can reduce it between 7 or 9, somewhere there, stand to be corrected.
Percent.
Yes.
Okay.
So the priority is to give the Zambian company. Okay. Then on the reservation scheme, so the reservation scheme, they are saying these contracts are reserved for the Zambian owned businesses.
Okay.
Okay. So then again down there, for example, if the tender that came out, it's being funded through CDF. So they'll say businesses that are within that constituency are the only ones that should bid for this. Okay. So it's Zambian, but also, and I'm just saying it could be CDF, and that's the good example.
Yeah.
So if you're outside that, if you're within that constituency, you have to
Yes.
be aware of which tenders are coming out that are being funded by the CDF for that, because then you qualify. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah. So how do you position yourself now to benefit? Okay. One of the most important is you have to regularize and register your business. Okay.
Compliance.
So make sure with PACRA your company is properly registered.
Yeah.
Yeah. And remember, I think last time we spoke about where I was like, I'm not for the idea of this. Now I'm a general trader. Be specific with what you do.
But if you want to do a lot of things, how many businesses will you register?
But it's a problem when it comes to these.
Therein lies the problem.
Yes. Because you can't do everything. Look, you can say you're a general trader, but at least be specific in that, in your general trading scope. What exactly is it that you do? Okay.
Build competency over time in something.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So now you're saying register with PACRA. Make sure your minimum capital is you're compliant in terms of that. Now there is the beneficial ownership. They want that. Make sure it's compliant. And make sure your returns with PACRA are submitted. You are current with everything.
Yeah.
Okay. Make sure ZRA you have to have a tax clearance certificate.
Yeah.
I spoke about that even last time.
Yeah.
Without that document, you can't access the government benefits, because now they've linked government benefits to compliance. Okay. So by you having a current tax clearance certificate, basically that entails you have submitted your returns, you have paid your taxes, you're okay.
Yes.
Okay. Then also just check with CEEC if you need to be certified, especially when it says Zambian owned businesses. Because I think under CEC does the certification where they say this is a Zambian owned company. I think they call it citizen owned company, citizen empowered company,
Mm-hmm.
or citizen influenced company. So make sure if those certification, yeah. But then also importantly, make sure that you register, you create a portal on the ZPPA online e-government procurement system.
Okay.
Okay, because now on that platform, that's where they post all the tenders.
Oh, okay.
That's where you find all the tenders.
Okay.
Importantly, have your correct contact details, your phone number, your emails, because tenders, every time there's a tender, those will come through as a notification to you.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, but also go on that platform, check what is available. So that's why I'm saying that, because on that platform, you need to specify what you do.
Mm-hmm.
Because depending on what business you do, when there's a tender, it will be sent to you. But if you've just said general
General
trading, it becomes
dealers.
difficult unless you have spelled it down. Yeah.
Yeah.
So to get those benefits that are there, make sure compliance is very important. Make sure your documentation is ready, is up to date, and your registration, your compliance is 100%. Then you can access those benefits.
Okay. Did you want to add anything about the
No,
procurement?
I don't think there's anything more that can be said. It's been all covered.
Okay,
But yeah.
cool. And then from Q1 of 2026, we are being guided that all domestic transactions must be conducted in Kwacha. What impact will this have on SMEs that rely on foreign currency pricing, especially in border towns or import-heavy sectors?
Okay. And just the correction there. So it's the settlement that will be in Kwacha.
Ah, not the transactions
Yes,
themselves.
and I
Okay.
think
Quote, yeah.
Chinesha is coming from,
Okay.
is very much familiar with this. I think you'll add more. So maybe
Yeah.
briefly, what I could say is, I think the first thing is it's only domestic transactions that have been targeted. Okay, so the settlement or the payments of domestic transaction should be in Kwacha.
Mm-hmm.
You can quote, you can invoice in dollars. However, for the SMEs, okay, so for the SMEs, the problem comes in when you're looking at, let's say, for example, you are a supplier to a mine
Yeah.
or one of the big companies.
Yeah.
You don't really have that muscle to command them to say, I'll invoice you in dollar or what. Okay,
Oh.
because you need them more than they need.
Yeah.
And you know the big guys are very sensitive about exchange exchange fluctuations and all that. So I think the best would be start now trying to reprice your goods and services in Kwacha, because it will be very difficult for you to invoice them. I'll quote them in USD or any other currency other than
Yeah.
Kwacha, because they'll just say we won't accept Kwacha invoices.
Yeah.
So think of it, start taking into what is the currency risk, then try to reprice and start negotiations now. Okay.
So isn't it better you just have a uniform price, like currency? Why would you then quote an invoice in a different currency, but the settlement should be in Kwacha?
I think Church can maybe help with the reason behind that. Because initially, I think when it came out the first time, they just said we'll transact in Kwacha, and we all thought we could just invoice,
Yeah.
quote in Kwacha. But I think we've had a history of these.
Oh, where this is coming from.
Yes, and things didn't go as the government thought it should go. Yeah,
Oh.
but you would think, I think it would be ideal.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I'm not sure about the reason behind.
Yeah. So, SI 33, 2012, before our time, I think we were all in school there. But anyway, the point is there was SI 33 and I think SI 55, which are now this current draft of the currency directives, and I think the EBOP measure, which is already in place. But essentially, I think it was good to remove the restriction of the quoting. And the perfect example is if I supply something to the mines, for example. And to be clear, part of the draft regulations in terms of what is exempt, there's mining services, and I think mining
Payment of mining.
equipment, specialized equipment. So again, probably would be better equipped to talk about what's specialized in the mining sector. But I would assume there's definitely some things which you can't run away from importing,
Yes.
because that's the only way you'll be able to access that specialized equipment.
Yeah.
So that's being protected. And I think the trading of power and tourists, when they come in spending in foreign currency, I think that part has been protected. So there's a lot of more sensibility in these current directives. I think there's been a lot of conversations that have happened over time, right? And so that gives us comfort to say it will not be too disruptive, but obviously it would be wrong to think it won't be disruptive at all. There'll be some teething issues along the way with this. But essentially, if let's assume that what I supply, I must get it from outside the country for whatever reason. So the cost in the foreign currency, which is usually the dollars, will be fixed. Say I spend $100 on something, and maybe my margin is $10. So I will then be able to quote you at $110.
Yeah.
Right? It's the quote. Then on the settlement, it needs to happen in local currency at the mid rate of that day.
Okay.
Right? So then there's some form of mitigation for that FX risk. Not entirely perfect, whereas
Yeah.
previously you could just get paid dollars, so you avoid the exchange risk altogether.
Yeah.
But now in allowing you to quote, I think it does address a bit of that. It would be interesting to see how it actually plays out in terms of the day of settlement and all those
Yeah.
other dynamics. And
Yeah.
assume there will be
The
challenges.
admin of that
Yeah.
But I think
dual currency financial statements.
Yeah.
as a country, two things I think I've seen a lot on social media around this conversation of the currency directives. This is not aimed at taking the dollar kwacha rate to 10 or 5 or whatever. It won't achieve that purpose, and I would like to believe that's not what the central bank is doing, and they have not publicly said anything with regards they want to reduce the exchange rate due to this measure. It's purely a monetary policy directive.
Okay.
So if you think about it, the tools that they use to manage inflation, that's within their mandate, only affects the kwacha. So government of Zambia cannot, or Bank of Zambia cannot have an MPR on the US
The
dollar.
USD, yeah.
That's determined by the Fed.
Yeah.
So to what extent in your management of inflation do you have control over your economy if half of the transactions are taking place in foreign currency? It becomes a difficult conversation.
Yeah.
Which is why I think even as people, generally business people, we need to think about what happens when we go to South Africa. Since most of us go to South Africa,
Yeah.
you trade in rands,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So it only makes sense that for the sovereignty of a country and to improve the monetary policy framework, you then trade in local currency.
Gotcha, yeah.
Now we understand that there will be challenges that come along the way. There are also arguments say, is this the best way of ensuring that the local currency is used? And there'll be all those arguments, which are understood. Obviously, the big long-term solution is to improve your structural issues within the economy, so that even the need of the dollar is reduced.
Yeah.
Because if you had production taking place here for vehicles and all these nice things,
Yeah.
potentially you have very little demand for even the dollar or
Yes.
any other currency
Yeah.
to begin with.
Yeah.
But those things are long term. Won't it take a year to set up those plans? But in the short term, what do we do? So from that perspective, I understand what the central bank is trying to do, just purely from that perspective. And I think the difference with the previous directives, there's been a lot more thought and engagement with the public. I think there was one last week again. So that demonstrates to us that there's a lot more consultations which have gone through, which would help to smoothen the process. But again, it will not be, it's like any other change in life. It's like how we're talking about how the roadworks are happening. It's an inconvenience, right?
Yeah.
But the long term will have better roads.
Yeah, true.
Right? But in the short term, there'll be some discomfort which comes with this. But we need to understand why it's being done and why, in the long term, it makes sense. Where Zambia,
Yeah.
constitutionally, the currency is kwacha.
Kwacha.
So we shouldn't have even gotten to this place to begin with. But it's
Yeah.
understandable why.
Yeah.
We're heavy in terms of copper and mining
Imports.
takes place
Yeah, as
mainly
well.
in foreign
Yeah.
currency. So there's been that build up over time. But I think that's the way we need to think about it, and just be open to this change, even with the challenges that it will bring.
Yeah, I think there will be challenges on the admin side as well. Okay. Now, the budget introduces a minimum alternative tax. How will this affect SMEs that currently report low or no taxable income?
Yeah. So minimum alternative tax, I think we call it the MAT.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I have an issue with this for starters.
What's your issue?
And my issue with it is that it's supposed to be an anti-avoidance provision.
Okay.
Yeah, and at least I've had I've had a chance to review how other countries are implementing it. It's an anti-avoidance measure. So basically, it puts a floor on the taxes that we should pay. So it says, as long as you've generated an income, so now it ignores all the expenses that you have spent to earn that income. Okay, then it says, out of your revenue, because ideally the principles of tax is that you should pay tax on your profit.
Yes.
Because it takes out the expenses that you incurred to produce that income.
Yeah.
Okay, so now where now you say pay 1% on your turnover, whether you've made a profit or you have not made a profit.
Yeah.
I was of the view that it should be designed in such a way that, for anti-avoidance provision, normally we say where the Commissioner General has reasonable grounds to believe that you are avoiding taxes.
Yes.
Intentional, you're abusing the provisions of the law. Okay, then they trigger it. I would have loved if it had a trigger. Like in Tanzania, if you make losses for 3 years continuously, the minimum alternative tax is triggered.
Okay.
It should have a trigger somewhere. And also, in Kenya, it has actually been abolished.
Oh.
So the Kenyan court ruled that it was unconstitutional.
Oh.
Yes. Okay. So it's those things that, and I'm not saying it's the same thing here, because I'm not sure how the wording was done in Kenya and how different it is with what we have here. So I'm not saying ours is unconstitutional.
Yeah.
But I would have liked to see where it has a trigger, because it's an anti-avoidance, not a revenue measure. But now you have made an anti-avoidance measure to be a revenue measure.
Yes, it sounds like that's what it is now.
It catches everyone.
Yeah.
So imagine you've got businesses that have got low margins. Talking of your retailers, the guys that will have made margins between 3 to 5%. So if you take away
The
1%,
1%.
it's massive.
Yeah.
It can work for the service industry because maybe their margins are high,
Yeah.
but for the low margins, it will hit them bad. Now, coming down to the SMEs. So the SMEs may not, most of them that are below 5 million. So if your annual turnover is below 5 million, minimum tax doesn't apply, because you're already paying tax on your turnover.
Yes.
Under the turnover tax.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
The presumptive, those that are under presumptive taxes will also not be affected. So there is a caveat
Yeah.
for most of the SMEs.
Yeah.
But you want to start as an SME, then yeah. But also over and above, I would have loved to see this type of measures, because we are saying there's an issue of non-compliance where people are paying so little taxes and others are not paying. So if you bring that, it's a revenue measure. For me, it's a revenue measure. It's not an anti-avoidance.
Yeah.
At least put a sunset clause to say, over a period of this,
Yeah.
maybe we can relook at how people now are behaving.
Yeah.
But if it just it will become a norm. So now you're saying you compute your tax the way you compute it, and put a tax rate there, say 30%. So the number that you get now, you have to compare it with 1% of your revenue. Then you pay whichever is high. Okay. So it becomes, understand from the revenue side, remember we are saying 80% should be funded
Yes.
by us through taxes and other fees,
Mhm.
government fees. But in doing that, like, let's not take business out.
Yeah.
Okay, because those are the same businesses that are supposed to contribute. So if you make them
Yeah.
unprofitable, becomes difficult.
Yeah, and it goes back to what you mentioned earlier is that if you're already compliant, these changes were supposed to now increase the tax base from the informal sector, those who are not compliant. But if these other sectors, they've been compliant, but now, even in their
Compliance.
difficult year, they are being now made to pay this higher of the two,
Exactly.
then it begins to now pain them because the tax burden is still increasing instead of now being shared,
Exactly.
right?
And the worst part of it, if you see the responses from ZRI of late, so you're saying, like, for example, a company will be genuinely in loss.
Yeah,
Startups.
yeah.
Startups have invested in money. They are still in a loss position. Now you're asking them to pay 1%. And whereas you are holding their VAT refunds, the VAT refunds are not being paid. Like, they're being paid at a
Yeah.
slower pace.
Yeah.
You know. So now you can't even use your VAT refunds to offset your tax bill, because the ZRA will tell you to say no. Your VAT refunds are dependent on availability of monies from the Ministry of Finance.
Yeah.
In the meantime, I even now can recite what they say, because I've seen that. In the meantime, find alternative ways
Oh,
of paying.
wow.
And
Oh,
cash flow
wow.
is very
Yes, it's
important here.
very tough right now.
Yeah, so it should. I would wish maybe they can look at it
Yeah.
and just try to modify it so that it targets non-compliant and not compliant taxpayers.
Yeah. True. Now we talk about an industry that is fast growing. We all know that mobile money, financial services, and all that, the ones that are taking over, sort of, in terms of just providing financial services and all that. So they're saying that these levies for mobile money will be adjusted upwards. What does this mean for SMEs that depend heavily on mobile money transactions?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I think, look, it goes back to the narrative of increasing domestic revenue mobilization and bringing more people into the pool. So similar to what we've talked about in terms of minimum alternative tax, right? It is now becoming a necessary measure. I think they would have loved to not do it this way. Maybe some of the examples that you've given in other countries could be considered between now and the final budget, for example. But if you think about how much the transactions in that mobile money pool are growing,
Yeah.
it then meant to say, well, I'm sure when the minister and the team sat and said, okay, we need to increase revenue by X, where can we find that revenue? So it now
Yes.
start going through specific lines and thinking, okay, if we doubled this levy that we charge on mobile money, what would it mean for the revenue pool, for example? And so you start getting to these uncomfortable conversations,
Yeah.
which is similar to the increase in the withholding tax on bonds.
Yes.
Also very uncomfortable, which
Yeah.
I think if everything was okay, we wouldn't be seeing some of these measures. But it's that discomfort that we discussed previously around coming from a very bad place, from a fiscal position. We need to make some uncomfortable decisions. So here comes another uncomfortable one. I think it's unfortunate that we're here, but it's what has to happen to help. Of course, it doesn't solve all the problems, but it does help to cushion some of the impacts that we're now feeling from the legacy debt that we've accumulated as a country. So it's unfortunate, but I can see how that decision could have been arrived at.
Yeah.
Yes, is what I would say.
Yeah. So again, I think, and the minister was deliberate when he actually announced that. Huh? So he actually started by saying, I'm just paraphrasing, like he said, many of our friends in the informal sector, they demand for these public goods, but they don't want to pay for them. So now we have to find a way to pay for them. And also remember, the informal sector is hard to tax. It's very hard to tax the informal sector. So one of the measures now, they are saying they are not contributing so much. There was a report, I stand to be corrected, I think where it was something like in the informal sector, compliance, non-compliance levels are around 80%.
That's really high.
That is very high.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so what does that mean? Who are being taxed? It's just the guys in the formal sector.
Yeah.
Your employees, your businesses that are, so they're saying, let's find what is the better way that the informal sector can contribute as we are bringing them into the tax system.
Yeah.
Okay, and one of them, the thing they identified is this mobile transaction is very prominent in the informal sector.
Yeah.
Yeah, and also you can look at it to say, okay, what happens if they increase the fee? Do people go back into cash? I think the chances are less, because then you can make the uncomfortable decision. It's talking about to say, okay, yes, they'll complain, but they're contributing. And remember, we have a target where we are saying all of us have to contribute.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's a form of extracting that revenue to help meet our 82% monies that percent of the budget that we need. Yeah, so I think it's necessary and comfortable, but I think it's necessary.
Yeah.
And I think also what will help with some of these discomforts, there's a word I heard recently about which is called a social contract.
Okay.
So there's a social contract between us, the people, and our government.
Okay.
So where there's good service delivery, your children are going to good schools, there's medicine when people go to hospitals, the roads are good, there's less discomfort when it comes to paying taxes. So in as much as the tax base is being broadened and there's this discomfort rather,
Yeah.
right now as we either pay more or we are now starting to pay towards taxes, if the government is delivering, I think a lot more people become comfortable because they can see where even that mobile money levy,
Where it's
as
going.
a marketeer when I contribute, but I see my child is going to schools, getting good education, they're sitting on a desk, they're not sitting on the floor.
Yes.
That discomfort over time starts to reduce.
Yeah.
So that social contract as well, as some of these tax measures keep coming up even in the next few years, it's important for that social contract to be managed on both ends. Correct.
Yeah.
Because we'll be more comfortable paying more taxes if
Yeah.
the service delivery is also good.
And I think we were also discussing earlier with someone who's in the sustainable finance area to say, in terms of small businesses that are excluded right now, because most investors or funders, they don't want to fund small businesses who don't have collateral. Some of them don't even have like official bank statements, right? But now they are saying they can actually pull your MNO statement, use that to prove that, look, this business has actually
This
had
transaction.
stable transactions over 1 year. So if this channel of MNOs is now going to be beneficial in that we can use it to get more financing and access to funders and all that, then it will only be right that we also recognize it as a way to increase our tax base. Yeah,
That's
so
one way to look at it.
I think so. Yeah. So further, ZRA has been given more powers, including arresting suspected offenders, freezing bank accounts, suspending refunds, and reporting taxpayers to the Credit Reference Bureau. How should SMEs prepare for these tougher enforcement measures?
Yeah. So, and this is why now your tax administration law is very important.
Yeah.
Okay. Because, like I said, it spells out the taxpayers' rights.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So, let me try to tackle them one by one. So, if I start with the powers to arrest, so that is specifically under the Customs and Excise Act.
Oh.
So under the Customs and Excise Act, that law is already there, but what's not there is the procedure on how the ZRA officers can go about to arrest guys who have been suspected of. Yeah. But my concern with that is, one, the ZRA officers are trained as tax revenue collectors.
Oh,
Right?
not as enforcers of the law.
Not they don't go through the training that the Zambia police officers go through.
Yeah.
So now it brings the question of, are we sure they're going to be competent enough to make sure that the arrests are just?
Yeah.
Okay, because remember, when you're arrested, it takes away your liberty and your freedom.
Yeah.
That's the problem with arresting. So, does the ZRA officers have enough competence to execute arrests? And also in terms of force, remember, even the police, we complain about, no, they used maximum forces. So do they know when to use maximum force and not when to use maximum force? So maybe the tax administration bill should be able to spell out, but
How?
yes,
Yeah.
but hopefully that it's not abused. And because basically what will be happening is, you're saying, if a taxpayer has the offenses that comes out from customs, it's smuggling, and a declaration of the value of the goods, or misclassification of the HS codes. Okay, so now, should honestly those offenses lead to criminal prosecution? Okay, so you'd think of it to say tax laws predominantly are civil matters. And that's why
Yeah.
they are
But
appeal
now there will be
processes.
criminal.
Yeah. So now, as a business person, when you get a query, you're also looking at a potential arrest.
Yeah.
So then that's why again you're saying your compliance should be up to date. But we'll be able to see how it will be drafted. We don't know what will be there, but it's more likely that the procedure will follow the procedure that the Zambia police follows. So yeah. Then in terms of freezing your bank account or seizure of your properties, so currently, when the ZRA wants to freeze or seize your property, so for freezing the bank account, I think can help me. It's normally the Financial Intelligence Center. So they have to involve those guys. If it's property seizures, they have to involve DEC. Okay. So now they want to give these powers to the Commissioner General. Okay. So now the Commissioner General can just easily freeze your account, or your property can be seized. Okay. But the only thing is, for me, is those powers should be exercised either at commissioner level. I don't know if they still the position of deputy commissioners. There were a number of restructuring at ZRA. The moment it sits below like this, there can be abuse. And you know what happens when you freeze your somebody's bank account. You get property from someone. The consequences
You
can
report
be,
them to credit reference.
yes. And also on that one, so currently the Zambia Revenue Authority Act prohibits the ZRA to share taxpayers' information with third parties.
Oh.
Yes. So now that is being relaxed. Okay. So now with the credit reference bureaus, now they're saying any unresolved tax liabilities. But we need the act to properly define what that is.
Okay.
It can't just be any dispute, because remember, you've got a right to appeal or dispute the assessment.
Yeah.
Okay. So you can't be on the other side, you're saying I'm disputing, then the amount you're disputing, they've reported it. Because remember, it destroys your credit rating.
Yes.
Yeah, then the bank maybe will have to give you at a higher interest, or they will reject facilities to you. So I think if it can be properly managed, and you hope that the Tax Administration Act will be able to detail and give how these rules should be executed.
Suspension of refunds?
Yeah. So on those, the suspension of refunds also needs to be properly done, because all they are saying is, if they are suspecting you of or you're under investigation. So right now, even if you're under investigation and you've got a refund, they can still pay you. Now they are trying to hold that against you and say, we won't pay you until we've resolved this issue. Okay. So, and it could happen that actually there was no case, you win the case, but remember, your refunds
been
were
denied
held.
of that.
It impacts your cash flow. So it goes again to compliance. So if you can make sure that your compliance is current, okay, then you can avoid all these power coming into contact with these powers that have been given to the ZRA.
Okay.
And
So
maybe if I can add, so
yeah.
everything that you said are symptoms. They're actually not the issue. The issue is what you mentioned at the end. So it's compliance.
Yeah.
So we've had very poor compliance. Now they're resorting to all these measures.
Yeah.
How they'll be enforced, we'll wait and see. We hope they'll be done judiciously and properly. And that's the hope that as citizens and taxpayers we can have. But it's highlighting an issue which has been existing for a while.
Yeah.
There is very poor compliance, and I
Yeah.
think as a country, we need to get better at just, if you owe something, pay
Pay.
to the extent that you can pay, of course.
Yeah.
But sometimes you find that people even run away
Yeah.
instead of approaching. Similarly with loans with the bank,
Change phone number.
very few times do people come and say, no, I have this challenge.
Yeah.
How can the bank help me? It's
Yeah.
always switching off phones, changing numbers, and then we are being chased.
Yeah.
So I think if we can sort out that cultural issue that exists within our society, then I think even some of these measures may not be necessary. Yeah.
Okay. The budget sets aside funds for SME empowerment. That is 2.9 billion has already been disbursed since 2022. Yeah. And 1.6 billion in loan guarantees. So do you feel these measures are reaching the right businesses?
That's a tough one.
Okay, I'll give it a go. So I think when you look at is it 1.6 billion?
Yes.
I think that has been facilitated through the Zambia credit guarantee scheme.
Guarantee scheme, yeah.
Yeah, I think the way I look at it is you could say that there is a broader reach, and especially that they talk about, I think just under 20,000 beneficiaries were reached. But then the question is, like you said, is it the right beneficiaries?
Yeah.
It's a bit tough because we don't really have the information of those beneficiaries. But how I would look at it is it these programs are meant to be sustainable, right?
Yes.
So you want businesses that are benefited from that program in the first if I can call it a first phase, should now independently operate so that you
Yeah.
capture the new ones, right?
Yes.
Yeah. But if they are still the same businesses that are being funded, then it just becomes a dependence issue, you know. So I would like to see that these programs actually, we can have testimonies of companies or businesses that will come out and say, okay, through this program, I've now scaled up. I'm able now to operate independently, and I'm contributing effective to the fiscus.
Okay.
100%. And I think the point you raise is the most important. We don't have the information.
Yeah.
All right. So without the information, it's hard to say if it's the right individuals or the right businesses that
Yeah.
are benefiting. But the principles are the same to what you're saying. So are we having these testimonials? Are these funds working for us as a country, as an economy? Because it's relevant, right?
Yeah.
Sometimes that simple support could lead a small business from being a micro to being an SME to being a large corporate that employs all of us.
Yeah.
So then it's important to see some of those stories, and I hope we'll be able to see. I know it's the early phases, but in the coming years, I hope we'll be able to see a lot more of those testimonials. From a principal perspective, I hope there's enough diversity. By diversity, mainly from a sectoral perspective. So we
Yeah.
can't keep supporting
The
the same
same.
suppliers to the same sector, for example. Right? So I
Yeah.
hope there is a lot more diversity in terms of who is supported. There's deliberateness to have a broader scope as well in terms of location. The same way you have CDF,
Yeah.
if you have, so that we are growing the economy also from a regional perspective. Because right now it's Lusaka, Copper Belt, a bit of southern here and there,
Yeah.
a bit of eastern, that Chipata area. But
Yeah.
let's have more stories coming out of the other areas of the economy as well. So I would like to think, but again, we don't have the numbers
The
and
full
statistics
information. Yeah.
to give that analysis for now.
Okay. And so To a small business owner that's listening to this discussion, or who read the budget and they don't even know what is this jargon that I'm hearing, what do you think are the next practical steps that they can take after listening to the budget?
I'll let you start.
Okay. So one of the biggest is compliance.
Yeah,
Compliance is on top there.
yeah.
Because if you even see all the government benefits,
Mm,
so the government is saying this, that, including the SI 45 that we spoke about.
mm,
So compliance is linked to all government benefits.
mm,
So as a small business, one, you understand that we've got, like you spoke about the social contract. So the social contract, I think even last time we discussed it, is where we are saying we, the people of Zambia,
mm,
okay, have agreed. So we run the business, we'll contribute.
mm,
So contribution brings about compliance.
mm.
So once you comply, then also the government should play their part, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
provide.
So the government should provide the public goods and services. Look, once those things are provided, even when people, like, look at the Scandinavian countries, they pay the highest taxes, but the public goods and services are top notch.
100%.
You know.
The hospitals are here like hotels.
Exactly, exactly. So it comes back to the government also playing their part.
Yeah.
Okay, then at least there is no that hatred and thinking you're just paying.
Mm,
So compliance is very important. If you
mm,
can make sure your compliance is current, and
mhm.
that's with the taxes, your registration, um, you could be able at least to get benefit from the incentives that the government have put in place.
Okay. And for you, Chilesha?
Yeah, I think you couldn't have said it any better. So
Okay.
compliance, because you're going to see a lot more of the ZRA trying to extract more revenue within the economy. Because unfortunately, we're in a place where we can't really borrow externally,
Yeah.
right? And we're trying to reduce how much we borrow domestically. So that
Mm,
means we need to raise actual revenue
mm,
from us. It's our country,
mm.
right? So it's us, the citizens, to actually pay. So you have to be compliant because we are supporting the country, but also some of the benefits within the budget, as is stated, are linked to your level of compliance.
Yeah.
So those two things are actually speaking together. So as a business, even if you didn't read the entire budget,
Mm,
if you don't want to really go into the details,
mm-hmm.
the important thing is be compliant. There is more of a drive to have more of us contributing to the efforts of bettering this economy.
Okay.
So you as a small business, in whatever small role,
Yeah.
could be through the levies that you pay on mobile money.
Mhm.
That's also relevant to bettering the country.
Yeah.
And I guess the lesson we can pick up, not only at individual but business level, we've seen where, from a macro side, we've landed because of debt accumulation. We're borrowing, but the funds, we don't know where they went, really. We can't account for them properly. So if those were properly invested, they
Yeah.
could be generating enough revenue to pay back. Right?
Yes.
But now we're in a position where we have to rely on resources elsewhere to pay back for those debts that we accumulated.
Yeah.
So at a business level, there's a lesson there as well in terms of how we
Definitely.
manage our finances.
Yeah.
To my own micro level, if I don't do it properly, I end up in a situation that our country Zambia is in now, where there's challenges to support health, to support education because of this debt hangover. So
Yeah.
maybe as a small business owner, I will also have a challenge supporting my children to go to school or
Yeah.
to take them to hospital because I did not manage my debt properly. So I guess that's
Yeah.
the underlying message there as well in terms of what this irresponsible debt accumulation can lead to.
Can lead to. Okay. And as we wrap up, what opportunities or risks should small businesses be watching out for in 2026?
So opportunities. So like we've broken it down.
Mm,
So one of them, I think through the SI 45.
mm,
So making sure that you fully understand, because those when they say Zambian-owned businesses, right?
Yeah.
And we are talking about Zambians being given the preferences,
Yes.
and also some tenders being reserved for the Zambians.
Yeah.
Okay, and the Zambians are us. Sometimes, sometimes when you sit, you feel like it's for other people.
You're excluding
know.
yourself.
Yeah. So take an interest. I
Yeah.
think what discourages most people is sometimes they say these things are given to those that are politically connected.
Yeah.
It discourages a lot
Yeah.
because you put in your best, you compile documents, time, cost, then nothing comes out. So, but I think what's important is try.
Yeah.
Try, and hopefully the authorities also they will award on merit
Yes.
and not with political connections. I think just as they're asking all of us to contribute, we should all of us benefit.
Yes.
Because that's what the social contract entails, and
Yeah.
it shouldn't be selective, where certain people are given and certain people are
left out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So those are opportunities. The challenges obviously comes in terms of compliance, and compliance you can look at it from people not knowing what to do, because somebody actually is asking, so what do I do to comply?
Yeah.
Yeah, like I mentioned, to say, look, try to have a good relationship with for example, the tax authority.
Yes.
Even like PACRA, all these government institutions.
Yeah.
You can walk in and ask what you need to do.
For your specific business.
Exactly. And especially like from a tax perspective, they've now introduced what they are saying. When you do a voluntary disclosure, penalties will be waived.
Oh.
Yeah. So initially, you could do a voluntary disclosure, but then it's at the discretion of the ZRA to waive those penalties.
Okay.
Yeah. Now they're saying now there is a law that to bring in those people. Okay. Because the difference is do a voluntary disclosure, do it if you can manage a tax health check, know your status.
Yeah.
Or if you don't know where to start from and you can't afford to hire an expert, walk into the ZRA offices. There's always a fear, but if you can walk in and say, look, I'm trying to ascertain my compliance status,
Yeah.
at least they can help you.
Yeah.
Okay? It's but do it under the voluntary disclosure program.
Okay.
Okay? So that, and even if you come up with a tax liability, okay, then you can at least apply even to pay it over a certain period of time.
Okay.
If you are owing anything. Yeah. So compliance is a challenge, but at least there are measures that can help you do that compliance.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thanks. And for you, Shileshe, what opportunities and risks are you seeing?
Yeah, most of them have been taken. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, look, there's increased funding. I think what excites me is this credit guarantee scheme.
Okay.
So again, walk over, try and understand how does this credit guarantee scheme work essentially. Because these are programs that are meant to help de-risk SMEs and help you to actually raise financing for what you're trying to do.
Yeah.
So some of those measures are key, and we keep seeing this line in the budget. So if you, as an SME, you can almost ignore everything else and see, okay, there's this line. What does this mean? There's this funding.
Yeah.
Okay, so how can I get even 1% of that funding for this project that I've been trying to do?
Yeah.
So walk over to the authorities and understand how you can access what is required. Of course, to even have that conversation back to compliance, right? That's the key theme. So are you registered? Are you up to date with your taxes, returns, all those nice things?
Yeah.
Do the right thing, be registered, and be compliant. Then you can feel free. You could even walk in with more confidence when you're approaching these guys and say, no, I'm a registered business. I've got this.
Yes.
How can I've got this tender, I've got this business I want to do. How can I access some of this financing? Through what channels? So even from say the bank's perspective, those are things that can help in terms of helping de-risk your business.
Okay.
In terms of the key risks that you should focus on going forward, again, already tackled. If you are not compliant, you see now that the ZRA has more powers.
They
right?
can arrest you.
Because
They can pounce on you. Last week they were not able to pounce.
Correct.
This time they
This
can
time
pounce
they
on you.
they can even freeze your account.
Yes.
So that all these things within the
Yeah.
budget. So it's very clear what the government is trying to do. The
Yeah.
message is clear. Guys, we need more of us to be involved in this.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, there's going to also be a stick. So there's a carrot and stick.
Yeah.
There's a carrot whereby if you are registered and compliant and you can benefit from these programs.
Yeah.
But as well, if you are not, there's this stick where we can now enforce some of
Yes.
these measures on you. So
Okay.
as a business, pay attention to those things. The summary is compliance. After you're compliant, now think about picking one or two lines and say, oh, there's this funding aimed at this.
Yeah.
How
How
can
can
I
I
benefit
benefit?
from
Yeah.
it? There's also measures aimed at supporting artisanal miners now to be more compliant.
Yeah.
Right? So let's do the right thing. Get into you are seeing the progress that's being made in terms of copper prices, gold prices.
Yeah.
Do the right thing. Get your license, be in order, and then
Yeah.
you can get that support to get your business going as well. So I guess
Okay.
that's what I can say, but most of it I think has already been covered.
Okay. Thank you, Chileshe. Thank you, Arnold, for helping us make sense of the 2026 budget. From us over at the Money and People podcast, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Bye.